welcome to the Narrowing Path, walking the spiritual walk. My name is Stephen Einstein. Thank y'all for joining me again today as we do today's daily reading from James Allen's Daily Meditations. This, of course, will be fresh to you and fresh to me, meaning that you'll get my genuine response, reactions, observations, and what I relate to about the reading, as this will be the first time that I read it or hear it right on this podcast with you. So it's always a journey and encouraging, and I never know what to expect. Sometimes we get a trend with them, so I can just follow along, but sometimes he just shifts gears in these writings. So really always looking forward to jumping on and doing these recordings and just doing this podcast with y'all. So thank y'all for listening and supporting this. And I'm looking forward to it. The last couple have been on meditations and things like that. And um, I hope it continues that way. So here we go. Let's get right to it. This is today's daily reading, August 24th, from James Allen's Daily Meditation. Meditation will enrich the soul with saving remembrance in the hour of strife, of sorrow, or of temptation. As by the power of meditation you grow in wisdom, you will relinquish more and more your selfish desires, which are fickle, impermanent, and productive of sorrow and pain, and will take your stand with increasing steadfastness and trust upon unchanging principles, and will realize heavenly rest. The power which results from meditation is the ability to rest upon and trust those principles, and so become one with the eternal. The end of meditation is, therefore, direct knowledge of truth, God, and the realization of divine and profound peace. Strive to rise by the power of meditation. Above all, selfish clinging to partial gods or party creeds. Above dead formalities and lifeless ignorance. It's a hell of a statement. Remember that you are to grow into truth by steady perseverance. That is a weighty reading. There's a lot of truth in this reading today, and let me tell you, it's a lot of encouragement and contrast. So I loved this. This was an incredible reading. I hope y'all agree with that, but if not, it's okay. To me, it was amazing. Let's go right to it. Meditation will enrich the soul with a saving remembrance in the hour of strife or sorrow or of temptation. Right? So it's the practice of meditation and prayer too, I would throw in there. Meditation specifically he's talking about here, but I think if you're in your spiritual practice, with however you may practice prayer, would be included. A meditation will enrich the soul with saving remembrance in the hour of strife, sorrow, or of temptation. So first and foremost, he's pointing out here that those things will still occur. Strife, sorrow, or temptation, right? Especially as we begin this journey. But the more time and the more intention you put into your meditations, the more soul enrichment of the soul you will get for saving yourself in those moments, right? So meditation will enrich the soul with saving remembrance in the hour of strife, of sorrow, or of temptation. So we will still face these things, but the more intentional we are with our practice, the more regular and diligent we are, or the more almost insurance we're taking out during those times and while we walk. What's really happening is we're expanding our understanding and our knowledge and awareness of the divine, of God, of truth. So let's go to the main body of it. As by the power of meditation, actually, let me read that again with the correct spacing, as by the power of meditation, you grow in wisdom, you will relinquish more and more your selfish desires, which are fickle, impermanent, and productive of sorrow and pain. So if we put that together, as you will relinquish your selfish as no, excuse me, as you grow in wisdom, you will relinquish your selfish desires, which are fickle, impermanent, and productive of sorrow and pain. So through meditation, what I just said, kind of reiterating that, really through meditation, you grow in your wisdom, your understanding of truth, knowledge, and righteousness, and the divine. And eventually, through that dedicated practice, the discipline of that practice, you will overcome your selfish desires. You overcome your self indulgences, your self centeredness, right? Because they really do not serve you in a way that gives longevity. They do not serve you in a way that would provide a contented life at the end of the day. These things are temporary. We use as temporary fillers and temporary um, senses of satisfaction and pleasure. They're impermanent. And most of the time, the desire for these things or the regret after these things manufacture these feelings of sorrow and pain and grief and regret and remorse and guilt and shame. All of these things come from trying to serve ourselves at the end of the day. All of these things come from those selfish, self indulgent desires. And through the power of meditation and the practice of meditation, we overcome those because it increases our awareness. It increases our understanding. And through understanding and knowledge, we can see these things. And then through a practice of the principles of these way of life, through this spiritual program, these spiritual principles, we start to overcome these selfish things, right? We gain the knowledge, but it's in the action. It's in the change of behaviors and then the change of thoughts behind them that we get to achieve this sense of peace and serenity. He goes on to say, and will take your stand with increased steadfastness and trust upon unchangeable principles, and will realize heavenly rest. Okay, so yeah, I forgot that was the second half of this. That's exactly what I was just saying. You will take your stand with increasing steadfastness and trust. So, increasing surety, confidence, belief upon unchangeable principles, right? That's what we base our lives upon. Now, I talk about it often when I say I choose to be honest. I don't choose to be honest with this person only, or with this type of person, or in this type of situation, or at my work, or at my home. I choose honesty as a principle I abide by. I choose integrity to abide by, hope and faith, love and forgiveness. These are the things and the principles that I use to help guide my decision making process, right? Those are the unchangeable principles that I can stand securely on, that I can ground myself in, and I can draw from a confidence to live by. It's a strength that can't be taken from you. That's why it says increasing steadfastness and trust. Because the more you live it, and the more you practice it, the more belief you have that you're following the will of God in your life, the will of your creator, the source. And the more you do that, the more you just have a knowing that you're walking in the right direction. And it's a powerful place to come from. It's a powerful place to operate from. Because you know the principles you will follow regardless of situation or circumstance. And we talk about the power in the next sentence. The power which results from meditation is the ability to rest upon and trust those principles and so become one with the eternal. Like this is some of my favorite concepts and understandings and laws to really talk about. So apologize if we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but when we live this way and live by these principles, we align ourselves with this spiritual world, with these spiritual laws. and we align ourselves with what someone's going to say God's will for us, or the will of nature, or however you want to um, undertake that spiritual realm, right? However you interpret that, however the terminology you use, or whatever it may be. But the power which results from meditation is the ability to rest upon and trust those principles. You begin to believe in those principles, that is the right way to live, right? Instead of serving self, practicing those principles and serving others and serving the God of your understanding, the power greater than yourself. The end of meditation is, therefore, direct knowledge of truth, God, and the realization of divine and profound peace. Because through all of these practices, through all of these actions, through all of these repeated experiences, we just continue to draw closer and closer and closer to that creator, the source, Mother Nature, if you want to use that, to goodness, to truth, however you'd like to phrase it. We draw closer to it, and we get more understanding. And that's kind of where the closer we draw to it, the narrower the path gets, right? That's what the name of this podcast is derived from, the narrowing path, walking the spiritual walk. Because we learn more and more how to live, and the actions become self-evident. They become more simple, because the longer we practice this, the less we're involved with it in the sense of our own ego. And at the end of that is peace. Because if the desire is to only follow God's will in our life, and we do that by practicing these principles, we know we're doing the right thing. We know that exactly what will happen from that is supposed to happen from that. And there's a peace that can be taken from that. There's a solace, there's a serenity that can come into one's soul just by following a different way of life. A profound and divine peace. This is the end of the main reading here. Strive to rise by the power of meditation above all selfish clinging to partial gods or party creeds, above dead formalities and lifeless ignorance. And there's some pretty substantial phrases in that, right? Strive to rise by the power of meditation above all selfish clinging to partial gods. And this can mean a lot of things, right? This can be money, this can be power, this can be prestige, this can be people, this can be a social media, fame, whatever it might be, whatever you're serving that isn't the God of your understanding, right? So partial gods or party creeds. And that statement right there is pretty big for today. There's such a divisive mindset when it comes to so many things in today's society, at least in America, and I believe it's replicated repeatedly throughout the world right now. But just the blind belief of party line, right? Just a unquestioning belief of a human institution, which plays in also to the above dead formalities. There can be some old dogma that just needs to be let go of. There can be some old understandings that need to be reformed when we just take this new way of thinking, or this, I say new, it's 120 years old at this point, but this different way of thinking, right? Above all selfish clinging to partial gods or party creeds, above dead formalities and lifeless ignorance. So just a life and filled with actions that you don't even understand why you do them. That can be perceivably positive or perceivably negative, right? Because you can have very, let's say, religious people that don't understand why they're doing the things they're doing. It's a lifeless ignorance, right? They're not. It's just a rote memorization. It's a obligatory performance of action without an actual belief in the actions being taken, right? That the thoughts have not changed behind them. The understanding isn't there. And what is that action for then? You're abiding by the rules to contain your own selfishness instead of striving to be more Christ-like or to righteous. These are things that need to change. You need to strive to be growing through those, and that's what I strive to do. That's my personal goals. Those are the things that I personally undertake, and I'm growing every day. Sometimes painfully, sometimes not so painfully, but every day, and I'm grateful for it. I find things I get to change, mindsets I get to change, understandings I get to practice, and my life keeps getting better. So it ends with this. Remember that you are to grow into truth by steady perseverance. This is a journey. This is a journey of growth and understanding and discovery and joy and peace. But it's only done if it's consistent practice, persevering practice, discipline. Discipline is huge in the spiritual walk because it's so easy for the ego to reemerge. It's so easy for us to confuse self centeredness and self serving with God serving if we give ourselves enough time to think about it. It's amazing how effectively we can lie to ourselves. I did it for years. So that brings us to the end of the reading, though. Another just extremely impactful reading. Really enjoyed this one, and I hope y'all do too. I'll be looking forward to jumping back on tomorrow and seeing what the 25th has to hold as we close in on the end of August. So until next time, thanks.